Yeah, I got it. Needs watch what it is. Are you ready for us, whatever? I haven't heard from Matt and Dawn. Is that a drainage board?
Okay. And these are on, right? Yes. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and open the Board of Works special meeting at 10:05. Could we please rise for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this special meeting was called mainly to talk about the new design set for the police station. We're getting ready to do the pre-closing on the bonds. Who wants to talk about that? Do you want to, Chief Shoemaker, or Les?
Well, Les, you want to start it out?
Since this project was initiated some 2 years ago now, the plans have changed quite a bit, and we just wanted to make sure that the Board of Works had an opportunity to review them at its pleasure and ask any questions that there might be, and make sure that the city's contracting to have built what it intends to have. And so the plans that Chief Shoemaker has provided, I think electronically to everyone, they're pretty extensive, but he did provide the hard copies of the bulk of it here today. But they are identified as the plans of KJG Architecture Inc. And they're dated, it looks like to me, May 2nd, 2022. I'm reading the fine print correctly. So Chief Shoemaker will make a presentation on it, I believe, and then we would hope to entertain a motion to approve the plans as revised.
The document that I provided and also the electronic email is basically what we've been working on, I think, since last December when Envoy had taken over the project. And this, what you're seeing today, is really all the changes to the budget, to the design of the front of the building. The internal parts of the building, the only major change since the original design that you approved was a reduction in the cost in the training. The front of the building, the training room, was a substantial change from the lecture type tiered system to a single multi-purpose use. Now we've taken the tiers out of the seating, and the room can be utilized for classroom style training, physical tactics style training, and also our virtual reality. So the tables will be able to be moved out, chairs, as opposed to the original plan, they were fixed seating. And so as far as the rest of that structure, I believe we've already, when we reduced it by about $2 million last, maybe in January or February, we had reduced the square footage and moved the entire, I believe the entire western or eastern wall has moved over just enough to make a substantial savings. But the placements of the rooms and offices in the building have not changed since your last approval, and I can't recall if I think you've already had the secondary plan, or however we want to look at it, had the garage space reduced to 3 bays to ensure that we have the maintenance area, evidence area, and a decontamination area. We have worked with Envoy. We realized that as far as the decontamination goes, if there's an incident, we're not going to bring it back to the police station anyway. So I've asked for a substantial, I didn't see the need of having a full-scale decon area when we won't be coming, if there's a situation out somewhere in the city, decontamination will be set up, fire department, EMS and whatnot. So we're not going to bring it back. So there's some substantial savings in that area. I think it's mostly maybe an eye wash, type thing for when, training or any crime lab chemicals, so there's some changes there. And we've also, they had originally reduced, reduced the size, man. Lost my voice there.
You want this? It hasn't been open yet.
No, I don't trust them. Originally we reduced the size of the fitness center by putting the armory in there. We actually had them, as you'll see, we removed that armory back out and put the fitness center back to its original intent, the size of that. So we reduced, I believe, they've changed it from a boiler system to a regular forced air system. So we didn't need the room in the boiler room, so to speak. And so we were able to move the armory into that area, which will have some reinforced walls. We've not had an incident before, but you don't want to be hanging out in the fitness center and someone have an accident. And so the walls will be reinforced to ensure no ammunition goes through the walls. So other than that, that's the building that you've maybe seen in phases we've talked about in meetings, but they have, I think with the reductions in our budget that helped the city council to get our final number, this is the building that's going to take us well into the future.
Also, there were some exterior changes as well from the beginning, right?
Yeah, they were able-
The way the stone and.
Yeah, and I believe the front, the main changes is the ceiling won't have to be, or the roof won't have to be slanted in a special type of material, which saves significant dollars. The building, they have told me that it will have a limestone. One of the things kind of carrying over the history of the building we're in, we wanted a secure structure. So that instead of having a block or a metal, there'll be some limestone in front of the training room. I'm not sure of the offices, but yeah, the front, it looks significantly the same, in my opinion, to the original plans that were designed maybe 2 years ago. But the cost reductions, we wanted to make sure we're in the architecture at the outside and not the losing any office space or training space on the inside.
Is being designed as well, if we have to make future expansion or.
Yeah, everything on the eastern wall, it can be, the land that is next to that, that eastern wall, an office could be changed to a corridor to that expansion area if needed. And then, like I said, if there's a time that if the city would see that we need more garage space, then that could be added on to the east as well.
Does anybody have any questions for Chief Shoemaker?
It's been a long time, but the fact that we're here, we're breaking ground on the 27th, is a good feeling.
Unless we need to have these approved before, is it tomorrow when we have the meeting? Okay. I'm not sure, when was the closing on the bonds? 10th.
Yeah, and the rest of the document, if you can't, on the link that I sent, is mostly mechanicals and elevations of the ground and all the things that are way over my head. But if you were to see that whole document, it would show all the MEP, as they call them.
So this is mainly structure though, it's not.
What you're seeing in these documents here is the overhead, front of the building, the overhead, and the layout of the building. That as far as the design goes, everything else, electrical, plumbing,
Or generator, those type things.
all that is in the rest of the document.
We might need a motion to approve this design, is that correct?
Yes.
The KJG plans dated, what did we say? May 2nd, 2022.
I'll offer the motion that we approve the KJG plans dated May 2nd, 2022 for the construction of the Frankfurt's Police Station.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Sheets.
Aye.
Greg Miller.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Aye. Speaking of that, we can take a roll call.
I was just going to ask if we can add that
Yeah,
intro.
let's add the roll call.
Roll call, Mayor Sheets.
Present.
Greg Miller.
Present.
Megan Sheets. Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to get a few things taken care of at today's meeting that were important to do, and hopefully get them done before Monday. Bart, do you want to tell us about what I think you're gonna have some new employees that you need
Yeah.
approved? Okay,
Yeah, so we got our seasonal zookeepers, all their backgrounds and drug screens came back. And so now that Margaret, Mackenzie, and Alexa have all had everything done, we would like them to start as soon as possible. So I would be calling them today. And when I spoke to them last, they knew that I would be asking them hopefully to start this week. So they should expect a phone call. But my goal would be to hopefully start tomorrow.
And there are 3
Mhm.
seasonal zookeepers. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion that we approve the hiring of the 3 additional zookeepers for the Parks Department.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sheets.
Aye.
Greg Miller.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Okay.
Thank you, folks.
So what do we have open still? What are we
So
waiting?
a full-time laborer now, as of yesterday, which I do have one interview scheduled today for that.
Okay, good.
So we had an application last night. Then I have 2 part-time laborer positions still available. And then we also have our facility groundskeeper position available.
Do you have any?
I had 2 more applications this morning for, one was for a laborer and one was for the facility groundskeeper. So I've called both of them, that I got to voicemail on both of them.
Okay. Well, just keep us updated and then we can maybe keep them, because you're gonna need them. I mean,
Yes.
quickly, I know that, because you're in your really busy time. So just keep us updated, go ahead, and if we're okay with it, go ahead and get like drug testing and that type of thing done.
Okay,
And then we can always go ahead and pre-approve those right around another meeting, so
okay, thank
I
you.
know how important it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, thank you,
Okay,
folks.
thank you. Jason? I think you have a job description for us today.
I do. We've had some changes within the department in the last couple of days, so I realized that we didn't have a entry-level, full-time job description. So I got with Cheryl yesterday and we looked at it. We removed a few things from the labor's original job description, which basically is the same thing that these entry-level people are doing. There was some information in there about operators, like operating backhoes and front-end loaders. We removed that.
Okay.
And then we added it was already in that labor job description. But the sanitation entry level, we're gonna require a CDL, just for the simple fact that we're in a position now where it's gonna cost them or us $5,000 a piece to get the CDL. So we're gonna require that for these entry level sanitation positions. And it was already required, obviously, for a laborer within the department. So, yeah, just the fact that we didn't have one, and now that we do, there's, like I said, a lot of things going on in the department in the next few days, and this will come in handy for us moving forward.
I guess we have that effective date, February 21st. That's when we hired the first group. Is that okay? Backdated, okay.
And then I just wanted to mention that there were a few minor typos that need to be corrected in this description that Mr. Miller found for us.
There was a spot too, Jason, in the packet. I still listed job description for the position of labor. For that just carried over. I think that could just be switched over to 100% person entry level.
Good, yeah.
Where is that?
The applicant employee acknowledgement.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
So we did find something in there that mentioned the fire department instead of the street department. We switched that, I think.
Oh, yeah, you know, I remember seeing that.
I think that was done before Cheryl printed this one, or the one you guys may have done.
So are you okay with approving this today? Okay. The job description?
I'll make a motion that we accept the sanitary entry level position as presented by Jason.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Sheets. Greg Miller.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
Okay.
I just wanted to give you guys a quick update, if everybody's okay with it. Milestone is planning on starting that work at the intersection of Clay and Washington Avenue that I spoke to you about a while back. As part of a punch list to fix some drainage there on Friday, June 17th. They'll go in and mill and salt cut the approach there. Then on Monday, the 20th, they pour the concrete gutter. And on the 21st or 22nd, we would have the asphalt placed back. So it looks like anywhere from, if you count the weekend, 5 days, if not 3 days of total work, and they'll have that back together and restriped and everything. So
Thank you, Jason.
I'll let you know that.
So where are you right now on your employees then? Because we just moved up a part-time to full-time. Are you still looking for a part-time?
Yeah, we just put a part-time position up recently, yesterday, to replace the employee that would be taking this entry-level job that was open. We just named our operator yesterday for the new operator's position. So now there is a laborer's position open for that individual. We haven't filled that position yet. We have 2 people that are doing CDL testing, and I didn't see any rush in moving them. They're doing the same job basically, but right now they're not even there. There would only be 2 that would be available for that, and that's our 2 entry levels that are there. So, and then, like I said, this position we moved a part-timer into an entry level.
So you have a part-time position at this time then? And I'll offer you the same thing that I told Barb. You know, I know that you're in need of that position being filled. If you have an applicant that you're interested in, just get with the Board of Works and see if we can go ahead and start the drug testing, background check, and get them approved so you can get them to work.
We got 1 application turned in from last night into today. I don't think there's any more than that. So we'll wait a few days and see what we get and act on that here pretty quick.
Okay. Anybody have anything else for Jason?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Scott, is anybody else going to come on this? Or is Joe?
I'm Susan Casper.
You're Susan Casper today, okay? Okay, well, we were going to meet today as a discussion about the one-way streets down in the area between State Road 28 Walnut. And I'm assuming they're wanting to go clear to Washington, or is it just to Clinton?
I think the intent would be to, in the one way from Clinton to, or from Walnut to Washington.
Washington.
And I think Susan Casper has reached out to me probably maybe 2 or 3 times in the last year regarding this. And so when I knew we were going to be, talking about it again, I had reached out to her yesterday to see if she was available. And she is unable to be here, but she had sent Joellen, who has done some legwork on this. And so I'd like for you to listen to her and the data that she's got today. Did you talk to the American Legion?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I talked to them last night as well, but I'll let her give her report and see what she has.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
I know most of you. So Susan called me yesterday and said, do you think you could take my place at this meeting they're having at 10:30? And it's something that she and I have talked about a lot, and particularly now with all this construction, people are going both ways on those streets anyway, because they don't want to have to go all the way down to McKinley and turn around and then come back up this way. So I did speak with Norman and Miller. They're very much in favor of that changing to two-way street. And Family Dollar Store said yes, definitely. I'm sure they're suffering some. Gilman's was on board. Curtis was like a definite yes. Okay. I called the Edge Hair Salon and I did not hear back from them. I called Holden's and he's on vacation for 2 weeks, so. And the girl that's taking his place as pharmacist said, you know, I don't even live here, so it doesn't matter to me. I went, okay. And then I did talk to the American Legion, and she was very much for it. So those are my people. It seems to me that it would relieve the amount of traffic that's going up. It would relieve the traffic on Main, but it would also relieve the traffic on Clinton and Washington of people trying to find their way around. Also, if you've been to the American Legion, there's no way to get in there to park unless you go through the CVS parking lot. Because otherwise you'd be going the wrong way on a one-way street. So they were very much for it. So that's my little group that I called. And of course, Susan is very much for it. Thank you. Thank you. No, nobody. I got no no's. I got some people who were not interested, but they did not say no.
I was down there this morning and she's right, the people are using the Taylor Street, to get to Norman and Miller. I know we've talked about the alley, but the alley is as tight as, I mean, it's one car. And so if we're concerned about traffic, Taylor Street, we'd have no parking on that portion. We'd have ample room for traffic going north and south. And that way you don't have people pulling into the alley and another car coming head on. That's what we're faced with at that alley by the Legion. I talked to Larry McBee at the Legion last night. He says it's been like that since the 70s. They have no idea why. I don't think we found it. You have?
The only thing, and I just heard this, I don't know if it's a fact, it was for the school buses for Kinder, so that they could go one way in and one way out. That's what I was told. So that's gone. That reason is gone.
Yeah. And that's news because Larry's been involved with the Legion forever and had no idea, but he said that they are using it, as Joellen said, anyway now, because they can't. Taylor has been open for a little bit for at least one car to go down the gravel and come back up, but everybody thinks that Walnut Street's kind of closed anyway, so they're going to Taylor. We have no parking on Taylor south of Clinton. We have parking on the east side of Taylor, north of Clinton. I think it could remain. Doyle, we have no parking north of Clinton at Gilman's on both sides, and I think that should remain. And then south of Clinton, did you talk to Coach Kids? I thought Susan.
I called her. She was really not interested. She thought Schultz's would be more interested. Eric might be more interested, but I did not talk to Eric.
And so that has parking on the west side of Doyle that could remain. So Jason can speak from his position, but we've studied it, we've talked about it. I know we talked about waiting until construction was done, but either I'm gonna have to stick an offer down there full time and enforce the one way, or we work on an educational campaign between the street and the police departments to remove the signs and make sure that people stay on their side of the road. So I don't know if Jason, you got anything?
For us, it's just a matter of moving signs, moving along. But, I do know we gotta do some work in that alleyway next to the new dental office, which basically all we'll be able to do is patch that right now. We don't have the money to do any kind of paving there. Taylor Street is, and there's some need there to pave that room. I would love to see no parking on that street. It's not a very wide street anyway, so I don't want to get into that point where we're parking on that street, especially with the amount of traffic that will be. on it if we move to two-way. You're just asking for a lot of trouble there if you allow parking on it. Other than that, I mean, yeah, I would probably, if we're gonna keep it a one-way and that's going to create some work for him, then I'm all for it if it's a two-way. Like I said, I don't think anybody has a clue as to why it was one-way or not, but that goes, and we're talking about moving that two-way all the way to Washington, or just going
The whole thing. That's the recommendation.
So we're saying both streets.
Doyle.
They're both one-way.
Doyle and Taylor, yes. And keeping that there's no parking on the south side on Taylor, on the south side of Clinton on both sides, but the north side, do you have any concerns? Their apartments are parking on Taylor on the
That's probably
east side of the road. Yes, I think the road was similar to many of our, you know.
I think we need to put, if we're gonna, especially by the old Kramers, we need to probably do a release or something there, because you're gonna have people come around that corner off of Washington onto Doyle, and they're in the other lane because they know it's been a one-way street for a long time. So if we are gonna change it, we need to put something out and let people know that we are, so we don't get head on right there at that intersection. They'll come off Washington in a hurry, turn left or right. We discussed this when Kramer's sold and Stillman's took over. That's something we really want to pay attention to, because people have gotten used to that being that way. And now you're going to have that going the other way as well. So that's what I see on the north side. I don't see any problem on Doyle on the south side of Clinton. That's what I see on the north side.
Would it be easier, Scott, if we just, my concern is just that little short section of Doyle between Washington and Clinton. 'Cause last night, when I was down through there, they were actually parking on both sides. I know those apartments, and I think there's only one house, maybe mid-block on either side. So would it be easier if we made one way or made them dual lanes? If we just do that all the way through?
You said north of Clinton on Doyle or south?
Would be north.
From the cross from Gilman's?
No, on Taylor.
Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, I thought Taylor should say no parking.
Yeah. Would it be easier just make them no parking all the way through from Washington all the way to Walnut on both? And
They should have ample parking on Clinton and Washington Street. And like you said, I think the one, any property should have, if they're rentals,
yeah,
they have to have off-street parking anyway. And that's,
drives there also. So
yeah, it could be no parking. They're all, I think they're all rentals. So according to, building services, they have to provide off-street parking. So
we just have, then we'd have two-way on both streets all the way through, and we wouldn't be concerned with anything.
yeah, and I think if you were to approve it, that Jason and I need to go down there, because I know there's some markings in the road that would have to come up, and educational things that would happen before, even if you were to approve it, we just don't rush out there and take the signs down. I don't know what the legal would say if they were to approve it, giving us, 2 weeks to plan an educational component to it before people start flying down.
Like an effective date or something effective.
Yeah, but we could put some new traffic I don't know if you have any of those new traffic pattern signs. Jason's been helping me work on, all of the signs have gone at no trucks and for the semis and whatnot. So we'd have to have some time to show that new traffic pattern with some signage. We can bring our signboard down there somehow and put it, but there'll be some hiccups. Just like Sycamore Street here, there's every once in a while, they just fly right down and it's one way. But if we were to, like I said, I don't know how you get paint off the road. I don't know if you have to just,
I think I would have someone get it off. I think it is.
Can you put, the arrows now are going that way together. Can you put one going that way and one going this way?
Yeah,
We paint over it that way.
we can look, that's why I say we actually need to put a plan together on that, if you were to approve it.
Was this an issue prior to 28 construction?
Not to this level. I think I think like with the Legion, a lot of people will turn the wrong way to hurry up and scramble into their parking lot. I mean, that's been happening for at least 16 years in my career, but as far as why it's happening now is the construction. Why they're just disobeying the wrong way sign is why. It's because of the construction now. And then because I didn't think when the AutoZone or the auto store was there, the auto parts store on Walnut, they didn't, Walnut Street wasn't closed down. And so then Norman moved in, just added, which, you know, it just added more traffic, so.
And I think Gilman had come to us a while back as well, hadn't they? Yeah, and Susan had mentioned it.
I'm sure they used Gilman's parking lot to go, they cut through Gilman's to go north on the one way, so. I mean, we might relieve a lot of pressure, a lot of safety concerns. I know we'll have some safety concerns with the potential head-ons and stuff that we'll have to educate, putting it, I don't know how long it takes to change what you've been doing forever, but we'll work on that.
So Kimberly, I had you come down because we're having a discussion now on the one-way streets.
Okay.
And if we're going to approve that, and if we do, how to notify the public or how we need to move forward, so.
Okay.
I thought you might like to be in on the discussion.
Sure.
I know when I went west on Walnut to get to the eye doctor appointment a couple weeks ago, and I turned to the right, and that's Taylor, right? Okay. Anyway, as I turned, I thought, well, if there was anybody coming south on Taylor, we'd have a hard time being together at that intersection, but
Are you talking about the gravel that they've added, the one lane?
it just seemed like it wasn't wide enough for two to pass.
And that's the way it's been at Main Street and Walnut. You'd have to have one car at a time because they just put down about one vehicle width of gravel as a ramp. And so we've had that, and people, have been taking their turn, going even on Main Street, which is much busier. So I think Taylor as a whole is wide enough for two cars. Jason, you think 2 car?
Yeah.
Once the intersection was repaired.
Yeah.
Here in, supposed to be open, what'd you say, July 13th? So hopefully that would be a review.
I think particularly, I like Greg's idea of not having parking on that stretch of Taylor and Doyle if we're gonna make it two-way. That'll be,
What are we affecting if we do that?
The Doyle would affect Coach Kids, and they park on Doyle alongside the building, but that Doyle is wider than Taylor. And so I don't necessarily see that on that stretch of Doyle. I'm talking just on Doyle from Clinton to Walnut being just one side of the road. Have parking and then no parking on the other 3 areas. But if you want to, they would have to, they have to have off-street parking too. And their landlord tenant deal with Schultz, so they'd have to park on the parking lot. We could always change the no parking. If you were to allow that Doyle or none, we could always have people call and tell us there's just nowhere else to park. But definitely don't want any parking on Doyle in front of Gilman's and Taylor between the old CVS and. But you're right, as they go north on Taylor, it's fine now because it's one lane. But you're right, if we don't remove the cars from Taylor between Clinton and Washington, we're going to have hard way to get through there, so.
For both of you, Chief and Jason, what is an appropriate, and Kimberly as well, public education timeframe to accomplish what needs to be done before it goes live, if you will, or?
I would need to get my sign guys down there and we'll take a look at it, obviously with Scott. We'll probably, if we're gonna do any kind of line striping, that'll have to be coordinated through the guys that do our line striping work. I'm gonna be bringing, Boardworks, information about downtown line striping, on Monday. So we would have to, go through with them to see what we wanted to do with that. If we need to really do anything in there, I don't know. That's something we need to look at. As far as signage, is there anything on Taylor right now? No parking? Or are we gonna have?
Oh, Taylor has a lot of signage, and Doyle has a lot of signage that where it says one way out of Gilman's, we could put two-way traffic signs to tell people, I'd say at least definitely a couple weeks, just in case he needs to.
If we have to order any signs, it'll take a while.
We're gonna have to break a lot of habits too. I mean, that's just, it's gonna be muscle memory. Oh, here's where I turn, so.
I think somebody was waiting for me to move down Doyle to leave Gilman's the wrong ways, because he was kind of hinged out until he saw me. So I think, like you said, we have people already doing it because of the construction.
So there by Coach Kids, is there an actual sidewalk there, or is there a pull-off? It used to be kind of a pull-off, but I guess I'd have
There's
to,
a sidewalk.
do they have a sidewalk there? Okay.
I don't know the dimensions, but I do, it's definitely by visual, it's wider.
Hmm.
Doyle is wider than specifically at the edge and Coach Kids but the other, Taylor's definitely not wide enough, and then Gilman, if we put park, we're just gonna have a mess, so whether it's wide enough or not, it should have no parking in front of Gilman's.
But you think it would be okay there in front of Coach Kids?
Just from looking at it, I don't see why, you couldn't get two cars down there with parking, but I don't know if you had
Much wider on Doyle.
They just redid the gas line. There's a whole new 2 or 3 feet of pavement on the west side, the east side of the road.
Yeah, the biggest concern for me will be right here. That we really need to educate people about. Because when we talked about that originally, Gilman's wanted, because they would run access into the parking lot, but they already have access to the parking lot off Washington and off Clinton. So there shouldn't be any issue there. So that's why we turned it down the first time. And the fact that we were worried about people coming off of Washington or Clinton for that. But, there's gonna be some cost to it for sure. And changing all this up. And there's wait time on signage. We don't have two-way traffic signs. There's things that have to be ordered. There's some things that we can make, but you don't want to make things a lot of times they don't look very good. So yeah, it's gonna take some time to get it. And like Megan said, it's gonna take some people learning to do different things.
Scott, did you have any conversation with Eric at all? I mean, it won't affect, I'm sure, the IGA portion of it. He's the property owner there.
No, I did not. I didn't think, when you look at the road, I didn't think we would potentially mess with that parking there. And that building they're in, I don't think they have a lot of foot traffic all the time anyway. So if we were to remove the parking after this gets done and we say, hey, we got to do that, they'll have to park on the lot. I don't think the council would have a problem having off-street parking for them. I think he offers it. Some of it, you see a lot of parking along that building on the lot anyway. So I don't think I have a problem.
something else that occurred to me in McGillman's parking along Doyle. Is there a particular curb cut to enter from Doyle to the parking lot, or is it just all access right onto the street?
Everywhere except where they have their large propane tank and some of their rental tools, it's all unobstructed.
It's the same on the other end, right? It's the same on the other end, right?
Oh,
Except for the stop sign being there, it's flat ground.
yeah, it's all, yeah, and it'd be nice it'd be nice for them and their own liability to have their in and out on Clinton and Washington, and then, barricade that, whether I don't know what the rules would be and what you could put metal or whatever, but I think in my mind, when we do this, we put some bloopers up and some police tape, and to teach them that they just don't pull right off into the road. That's in my mind, but I think long-term, it'd be nice to have some sort of, then work with us to then put something up that they keep traffic in and out on the main streets, and Doyle's all blocked off. Because they're gonna have people pulling in differently than, they're not expecting that problem, is people will pull in off of Doyle and Park. And so they'll probably see that they'll have to make some changes, but I believe that would be all on their property.
Concerns maybe to have two-way traffic with a no threshold type of, for their whole parking lot.
As far as parking goes, I don't know that the Washington Street parking, like in front of the apartments, would have a whole lot of effect, obviously coming from west to east, but coming from downtown on Clinton, going west, there's cars that park right there on that corner in front of that apartment house. And I'm just afraid, without any kind of stopping point, somebody's gonna come around there, give them a park there, they're gonna just angle into the parking spot, and go into the parking lot, and there's gonna be somebody sitting there. Which that can happen now, obviously. But, I don't know about Washington Street. Because there'd be parking facing east, I guess, on the south side of the road on Washington, so that wouldn't affect anything. I don't think coming from west. To turn on that street, I just know how quickly it turns out. And how many times I've seen them turn into the northbound line.
I do not feel ready today to render an opinion either way. I don't want to stop progress, but I think there's some concerns that have been raised, rightfully so, about what it's going to take to get people acclimated to that new piece, which if we can do that, then that's fine, but I'd like to have it, even if it's during our, planning session that's open to the public as well. Maybe if we carry out some more discussion tomorrow.
My issues on Doyle more than it is.
Yes.
Doyle's my where I have the problem right now, just trying to educate. I just know how people think. They just don't always think and realize what you're getting ready to do. Taylor Street, we can change right now if you want to.
That's what I was gonna say. Do you think it has to be both streets that we address at the same time, or?
I don't.
I mean,
I'd go down there and take Taylor's one-way signs down right now. If you told me I could.
Could we look at this at two different segments? Could we look at this to alleviate that problem to the eye doctor area, do from Clinton to Walnut, and open that up? Seems like the main concern is Taylor Doyle in the second section from Washington on in front of Gilman's and where the parking would be. Would that help eliminate some of that problem if we just open those up so we could have that traffic in that block area?
If you could give us the Taylor part today, and then maybe Monday night's meeting, we have, Jason and I had some time to get together and have a plan or not a plan to do this to your, for your consideration. For the rest of
Taylor, it's the Doyle piece that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Could we separate those two?
That's a good idea.
your suggestion is to do just the north or the south section of Taylor, or the whole thing, Taylor?
Yeah, my suggestion was just do the one section, but if we could do the whole thing and you didn't have one opposed to all of Taylor, and we look at the Doyle section there.
Yeah, I'd rather, if you would, just do all of Taylor and not just one.
And no parking.
I'm not concerned about paint markings on Taylor or anything like that. People don't put paint markings anyway. You don't make it drive both ways on there, they're gonna drive both ways, so I'm not concerned about that.
We just have to address the parking on the Doyle or the Taylor, that short section there coming around the corner between Washington and Clinton then for the cars that can park.
And we changed it, those cars, the city had them parking on the other side of the road, which was left the center, wasn't the right way. We had an officer that was involved in, I don't know if you recall that, and so that's why we moved the,
Signs.
signs the other side to satisfy the officer's state statute interpretation, so. But when you go over any other city, you go to one-way roads, they're parking on both sides of the road, so. We did, that's why it was over there, and now it's been moved. I think it's been about 10 or so years ago. So with all those people that went through that probably don't live there, so this will be new for them, and we can work with them.
Does that seem to help eliminate some of the issue for that area for?
What do you think, Megan?
I agree.
Okay, so do we want to make that in the form of a motion and take care of that portion today, and then you'll come back to us, did you say Monday?
I think if we, him and I go down there with us, even just look at, the Taylors had our attention, that's what I've been watching. We know people on Doyle, you're going into Gilman, we'll find a way. Well, I think Gilman's just gonna want something because the traffic, they're using their parking lot as a northbound lane, but that's something that we need some more time on because there's obviously some safety issues that we're not thinking about or not having. So surveying and sitting down there, I think the next few days, we can get an idea if we can do anything or not without Gilman's putting something up. I think that might have to be the plan, is that something goes up to where it's not completely open access like it is. Maybe a little more limited access, but we can work with them and talk to them.
I think along with, if we choose to go ahead and open that area up, give a specific date and a plan for how we educate. I think we'll still have to have that education process to let the public know. So, put that together and along with, when we think a good time would be to.
For the Taylor?
Mhm. Yeah.
The only thing on Taylor, would be signage, and I think that if there are markings in the road, they would be at Washington Street. When they redid Washington Street, I think they put some arrows, and so we need to figure out how to get those up. So I don't know. What do you think? 2 weeks, 4 weeks? I think once if you were to approve it, we go down there, we take some pictures, and try to put something up with Kimberly. And also, our sign is down on Glen Avenue, which has helped with the speeding. So if you have another 18,000, I can get another. Everybody wants the sign.
Everybody wants that.
But those signs are expensive. So as soon as we moved it from Armstrong, the semis came and Jason saved me and put some barrels up there. And then once we move it on, since we put it on Glen, we haven't had any phone calls. So if I move it to Taylor, so we'll figure that out.
So we'll make the motion that, I want to say effective immediately, but as soon as the proper signage and so forth can be done, but that we allow two-way access between, on Taylor, well, all of Taylor, which is between Walnut and Clinton, correct?
Yes.
But I also want to state the parking situation. Is there parking on
There's parking on the east side of the road from, on Taylor from Clinton to Washington on the east side of the road. That's the only parking area.
Oh,
It would have to be removed. Part of the motion,
I think, Greg, you were here, I'm embellishing my motion, but, were you saying that you thought that Taylor should not have parking on both sides? Okay, so I'd like that to be part of the motion as well.
Is the motion just between 28 and Clinton,
Yes,
so it doesn't go to Washington?
correct. Because then it becomes Doyle. Is that right?
No, Doyle is by Gillens.
Right.
Motion you're doing today would be 28 to 120.
Okay, I'm very
No
sorry.
parking with no parking on either side.
Okay,
And that's Taylor Street only goes, so there's no other Taylor Street in Frankfurt. That's
right.
it.
I thought it was a one block street. So yes, between 28 and Washington.
Yes.
I second that.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Sheets.
Aye.
Greg Miller.
Aye.
Megan Sheets.
And probably need to give some sort of notice to those people that live in that one block that use parking out front. I'm guessing, is it a house or an apartment? I can't place.
There's apartments. Did you, I didn't hear, you just give it time.
An appropriate time, effective immediately, but
We'll also,
Also
With
proper
proper
signage.
signage, is I
we'll
think.
we'll tell you when we're ready. And
Right, there's all kind of.
so the old ASAP.
Situation, which is not in 10 minutes.
Right.
Or 5 10.
Or today.
Today, yeah.
Would you like it parked on one of the, like Washington or?
This house here has a driveway. and this house
Thank
here
you,
has-
let's drop and clarify that.
Okay.
But it's not, it's.
No, yeah, we have to notify those residents. I don't know exactly how we need to do that. Make up a, a certain memo form or whether we go personally and put the information for them.
There's really only one house that faces Taylor Street. The others, and there's three, in between Clinton and Washington, the other two houses each face Clinton and Washington.
Yeah, so I think it's only one house we're affecting. Okay. Okay,
Thank you, Joellen, for
yes, thank you.
Susan will be thrilled.
Thank you.
And so am I.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jason and Scott, and thank you for continuing to work on that. And then at least we have this addressed today, and then we can bring up the other situation later and figure out what we want to do. Does anyone else? Okay, thank you, Joelle. Does anyone have anything else? Okay. Yes. Okay, I'll take the motion.
So moved.
Second, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.